we are the average of the closest 5 people around us. I sat with that for a long time and I was like, oh my God, I'm not them.
We talked a lot about who she saw herself as and who she saw herself becoming. That was the first big shift.
Everybody has demons, and sometimes we just are not strong enough to really shut them up every so often. It had just gotten to be so overwhelming. Everybody has dog shit under their welcome mat, right? Yeah. Everybody has stuff. So why let this stop me from continuing to better myself?
We can change the past if we actually focus on building a present that is worthy of who we want to be.
I couldn't even begin to fathom to design this person that I am now, because I never even thought it would be possible. I was like, no, not physically possible to ever be that person. It's just not. And then I look in the mirror and I step on the scale and I look at the labels in my clothes. It's like every day I have to learn that, okay, yeah, that was possible.
Welcome to Stronger You Radio with Mike Dola. Join Mike and friends as they discuss issues to keep you healthy, fit, and on track to create a stronger you. Let's listen in now.
What's up, Stronger You family? Welcome back to another edition of Stronger You Radio. I am your host, Tanner Baze. By now, you know I am not Mike Dola. Today, we've got another really fun interview. It's a member spotlight interview, and we're interviewing Kelly Stone and Coach Jeb Stewart Johnston, who I like to refer to as Jebward. I don't know if he's ever been called that in his life, but I think it's a cool nickname. What's up, guys? How are you?
Great.
Hey, Tanner.
So, Kelly, let's go ahead and get this started with you. You've been with us for over a year now. Is that right?
That is right. Yes. And at this point, I've almost lost track.
So you've been with Jeb for close to 10 months, somewhere right around there?
Yep. Just around there.
So can you just kind of hit me with some overall thoughts on what the past 10 months have looked like for you? What are some of the things that have gone on?
Wow. Not a simple question.
Big, right? Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even begin to break down on how incredibly different my life is currently at this exact moment than it was however many months prior. And I could never even imagined that I could have been anything close or anyone close to who I am right now, whether it's professionally, personally, with my family, with my friends, and literally every single aspect of my life. Being with Stronger You has changed it for the better. 1,000,000%.
Look, I said we aren't going to start small, and then you just raise the stakes just a little bit.
Yeah, no, seriously, I might start crying. So I'll just put that, put that warning out there.
I hope you know that it wouldn't be the first time, and B, I am such a crier. So if you do, it's going to be hard for me to not join you. Okay. So for all of you listening at home, if it sounds like the room has gotten really dusty, that's because it has. Somebody's chopping onions. So here's what I'd actually love to know, because from what you've said, your life is a total 180 from where it was whenever you first showed up. Jeb, I would love to know from you, you have to see that, I'm sure. I'm sure that shows up in check-ins and y'all's correspondence, but can you point to, I don't know, a couple of things that really jump out to you, or maybe moments that you've had with Kelly where you were hot damn, you're a different person now. This is not the person who showed up on my virtual doorstep.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few of those moments, but I think the moments that really stand out to me more so there's two particular moments that Kelly really, I think, questioned and struggled hard, because we see the gradual shift, but there was moments when she could have folded and given up and gone back to the way things were, or she could have pushed through and become this new person. And I would say the first time in particular was when we kind of had just really started working together, and she had a planned trip to Europe. You'd already lost quite a bit of weight at that point, and she just didn't feel like she had the energy, and she didn't know if she could do it. And I said, we're going to take a break. We're going to raise your calories. We're going to send you off to Europe. You're going to have a good time. You're going to do whatever. Well, she went with a family member, and they had a good time, but there was a lot of eating, a lot of drinking, and she came back had put on, probably like, what was it, like 13 pounds or something over that break, and 13. Just very dejected, really upset. And the big thing was like, hey, it's okay. Like, this is fine, because there was a huge learning experience. And she came back from it. And the things that she said she was upset that she gained weight, but the bigger things was like, wow, I just felt out of place. Like, I didn't want to eat crap. I didn't want to drink all day. I didn't want to do all the things that everybody else wants to do or that I used to want to do. And I don't really know what's going on. And so that was the first big shift. It was like she was becoming this new person, but still caught somewhat with that old Kelly. And it was a big growth experience for her, I think. And so I looked at it, I was like, wow, like, this is the opportunity right here. And so we just talked a lot about that. I think we talked a lot about who she saw herself as and who she saw herself becoming. And that was the first big shift, I think.
Kelly, do you remember that?
Like it was yesterday. And the one other thing that I quote from Jeb, seriously, that was exactly what he said to me when I came home from that particular vacation, that may have been the reason why I was so able to be like, okay, I'm getting this now, is he simply said to me, Kelly, we are the average of the closest 5 people around us. And I looked at that and I sat with that for a long time. And I was like, taking the 5 people closest to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not them. Like, I'm no longer that person anymore. And that was like a big reality, like hitting me in the face. I was like, wow, my interest, where I'm going with life now, it's changing. And like, it was very evident that on this particular trip and coming home, that this was certainly a shifting point for sure. I remember,
and that's like a pretty heavy realization to kind of come to, isn't it? Whenever you start to recognize, like, I am actually a fundamentally different person.
Well, because then every single relationship that I have known, whether it be family-wise, friend-wise, acquaintance, anything, it was changing. And that's when I was like, okay, something for sure is happening here, Yeah,
something has shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Getting Kelly's input on that. It's funny. And I, of course, can't take credit for the 5 people thing. I definitely stole that from...
Yeah, I mean, like, now I see it floating all around. Right. I'm like, oh, yeah.
And it's such a cliche, but God, if it's not true, right?
Yep.
Like,
no, but you know what? You share the wealth, That's what it is. Drop the bombs. Let somebody else know it. Spread it. Spread the love. That's it,
To me, it became almost more powerful because Kelly had already lost like 85 pounds at this point. Her life had completely changed. She was, at the point where she's going into her boss's office and asking for things she wanted, knowing well that she probably wouldn't get them, but having the courage to do it. She's got this great boyfriend. All these things are happening. And I get a check-in and she's just like, and maybe had like an off week or something. And it was just one of these things where it was like, just about her life and some difficulties she's had and, how she's been on her own and she's had to do this and just how hard things were. And she's just, it's going to be hard. And like, she doesn't know if she deserves this. Da, da, da. And I said to her, I was like, you know what, Kelly, if you decide to go out today and eat all these pounds back on and drink all these pounds back on and go right back to the person you were, no one will blame you because you know what? You've had a hard life. And if you do that, it'll be just another sad story of a girl that had a tough life. And this is what happened and it's fine. Or we can change that complete story and we can make it a story of overcoming tragedy and overcoming struggle and becoming this inspirational, aspirational person. And a week later, it was just like, she's like, you're right. And she needed that. She needed to have a little pity party and it was good. But it was like, since then, it's just been like, and when she's had an off weekend or whatever, and like getting back to lifestyle stuff and being able to go out and it's like, had this party in Atlantic City, came back, I was like, yeah, I gained a couple pounds, but it was fun, whatever. I'm good. I know I can get back to it. I just need to tighten things up. Now it's where I see like, she's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Kelly in 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that week also. I mean, it wasn't exactly that long ago, but you're right. And it almost seemed like I had been like soaring on this like really high for a really long time. And I guess I just didn't exactly know what was next, and for some reason I had just let my head take over. And I have worked week after week, month after month, trying to not allow this chaotic brain that I possess to ruin everything that I have been doing. But sometimes it rears its ugly head the same way all of our, everybody has demons, and sometimes we just are not strong enough to really shut them up every so often. And I think that's what I needed to do. I think I just had pushed it aside, pushed all of those thoughts and all of those fears and all of those, little insecurities that I know, I have to work on every single day, but I was tired of working on them for some reason. It had just gotten to be like so overwhelming. I was like, am I really living in this, fluffy fairy tale life where everything seems to be going so great now? But like, just had to sort of get it off my chest. And that's exactly kind of how Jeb responded. He was like, listen, we all have stuff, and I know that because through working on yourself and, privately speaking, I do work in therapy also, which in conjunction with SU is like probably the best combination you can ever get if you really do have any sort of traumas and stuff that you want to work on. But I started to remember that, you know what? And this is my phrase. I made this phrase up. I think everybody has dog shit under their welcome mat. Right? Right?
Yeah.
I think I made that one up. Not like the 5 people, but I think I made that one up. So everybody in the world has stuff. So why am I sitting here letting my past or letting, the way unfortunately things were dealt to me or this, that, and the other thing? Everybody has stuff. No one's here to judge it. Everybody kind of like deals with it a different way. So why sit and dwell on it? Why let this stop me from continuing to better myself? You know what? You're right. It is what it is, right? That's like a big line that throughout this entire journey, sometimes it just is what it is. Like there's no answer. There's nothing you can do about it. It just is. And that is something that is disturbing, but once you can just swallow it and say, okay, it's very freeing,
I think anyone who is like an avid meditator can probably tell you about like the times that like they've come to that exact realization that like, I'm spending so much energy trying to like change what was or what could have been or what happened or what is sitting on my plate right now, whenever in reality, like I know that all of this effort I'm expending is not doing me any good whatsoever because I can't fix that. It just simply is what it is. So now I've got to play with what's available to me here. And
exactly.
I feel like coaching a lot of the times is like spitting out a lot of those platitudes over and over again. And then like waiting for the moment that for someone, they actually stick. And then whenever they stick, it's like, whoa, like, are you a genius? And it's like, no, not really. It's just, I've been around this block a few times.
Well, one of my favorite kind of thoughts has always been, people say you can't change the past. And in my mind, you absolutely can change the past. And the way we change the past is by changing our present. And the story can exist and all the facts can be the same. But if the ending of that story is different, all of a sudden, like I said to her, it could have been a story of tragedy of another person who had a sad life and ended up sad and ended up doing these things. Or we can have a story when someone changes their life and turns it around. All of a sudden, the past is what built this character instead of what broke this character. And to me, we can change the past if we actually focus on building a present that is worthy of who we want to be.
I mean, Kelly, from all that I can tell, it certainly seems like you are, if not building, have built a present that reflects who you truly want to be here.
Every day is really strange for me because I mean, like sometimes I'll just be doing things and I don't even really realize that I'm doing them now because that's just what I do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't get on the escalator at work. I get on the stairs. And it's not even a thought in my brain anymore. But now I am a person who takes the stairs and not the escalator. And it's just so like every day getting to know this person who, you know, I said a couple of weeks ago, I'm not even sure if I know where I even had the potential to go because I wasn't even sure. Remember that like Big Banger line I said or something like I didn't even know if I was like alive. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't even begin to fathom to like design this person that I am now. Because I never even in my life thought it would be possible. You know?
I think you said something along the lines of like, I'm not even sure that I was really alive. It was something
right,
like
or like I wasn't.
It was a good line. I mean,
something. Yeah,
we memed it. We memed it.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And when I read it back, I started crying. I was like, "Oh man, what am I doing to myself?" But it's true. I could have never guessed that I would be this person in any way, shape, or form. I mean, physically, emotionally, mentally, I'm so much stronger. There's every element of my life is so incredibly different that I don't know if I was supposed to be here or if I've actually created my life and found myself here. You know, like I'm not even sure what that road really was. I mean, I guess this was what it was in store for me. I guess I don't know, maybe I was always supposed to do this at this time and become this person. You know, I don't know.
All of these experiences are what created you, right? You wouldn't be who you are if you hadn't gone through these things.
And I mean, everything from like completing my first like 5K, which I've done in the time when I've been with Stronger You. And then now having completed 2 Murphs, I'm like, oh my God, who do I think I am? Like I go to a gym and like I lift up weights. Like what? Like, you know, I mean, like I never could have imagined that I would be doing like behaving that way, but I like it. And that's what I want to do now. So that's what I do. It's really weird.
There's this line from Cheryl Strayed. It's in Tiny Beautiful Things when she's talking about like when people go through hardships and really hard things. She just has a simple line that is, "This is your becoming." And I find myself coming back to that all the time. And you just reminded me of it here because like at times, like whenever we go through a drastic transformation, like we hit a point where we look back at what we've done or who we are now and we're like, how the hell did I get here? Like what in the world went on? And then I like what I love about that line about like those things are my becoming is it makes it almost seem like, you know what? Like that was my montage. Like if my life is an 80s movie, like cue up the Red Ryder Lunatic Fringe and like that's my montage to like get better. And the cool thing about it and the reason like we love having people like you on here is like it's almost like we get to talk to you on your way out of the montage. Like you're Rocky, like running up a mountain in the snow and you're about to fight Ivan Drago, and we get to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
It's just so neat. It's just the coolest.
It's tough because, you know, we talk about goals, we talk about weight, we talk about food, we talk about a lot of stuff, right? But then I felt, you know, a couple of weeks ago when things were kind of winding down with Jeb, and I was like, I want to start to learn like who I am now as this person. You know, like I'll be back for another cut or this or whatever. But like, I have to still learn how like this body moves, how it feels. Like, what can it do for me now? It's brought me here and look at what I was able to do. And now it's like, I have to get to know this new person because it's just so different. And so, you know, simple little tasks like, I don't know, walking out of the house in like a tank top. I'm like, this is new. I have to learn kind of the emotions that come along with this and learn how to feel comfortable or feel normal or feel like people aren't looking at me. You know, it's a lot more than just the food side and the dish side. It's a lot heavier than that. Well, it can be. Maybe it's not for everybody, but certain people I think would agree, especially if you have like a gigantic kind of a, you know, like a big loss. I never imagined. First of all, I thought if I had everything working against me, whether it be my genetics or this or that, I was like, nope, not physically possible to ever be that person. It's just not. And then like I look in the mirror and I step on the scale and I look at the labels in my clothes and it's like every day I have to like learn that, okay, yeah, that was possible. Yeah. Like, holy crap, you know, like, and it's real.
Yeah. Not only was that possible, I did it.
Yeah. I mean, I sure did.
Jeb, like, would you say that the majority of the people that we work with, like, actually do have to learn to become a new person?
Well, actually, you know, there's a few different people have had some very like kind of influential moments on me. One of my clients, I remember her saying the hardest thing for her to get used to was all of a sudden, like, both men and women started to notice her visible, and then all of a sudden, she's like, I'm no longer. She's like, it feels really uncomfortable. Now she's rocking it. Like she's like, yeah, like she's awesome. But there was this moment when she was really upset. But then, you know, and I still remember, and I kind of had forgotten about this, but Kelly, probably one of the most heartbreaking check-ins, was actually not a sad thing on Kelly's part, but I'm just remembering this now, was Kelly had a check-in and she's talking about going shopping for a bridesmaid's dress. And this was earlier on in our session, and she's like, I've never been able to try on the bridesmaids dresses. So when all my friends are trying them on, I have to just look at them and they have to order me a special big one. And that's something, you know, as a guy, I've never even considered that. I mean, that was heartbreaking. Like to think of a woman who in that situation where her friends is getting married and it's a celebratory thing. And then to be reminded that you don't fit the normative idea of what a woman should look like or this thing. And now the beauty of the story is that she went in and they had to order a special dress for her. They had to order one smaller than what they had.
Yeah.
That was amazing. But the first part of that, I was just, I mean, you know, and as a man, like that's something I never thought about, never even considered.
Yeah. I remember that actually, because, you know, it's very disheartening to walk into a store and there not literally be a size that fits your body. And so I've never, you know, look, right? Infamous bridesmaid. How many weddings have I been in my whole entire life, right? Literally probably like 15 or something. I don't know. How many times have I been able to try on the bridesmaid's dress on my actual body? 0 until now. And so like, I remember even having like being nervous still that day, knowing very well that like the likelihood of me being able to take off a dress off of the hanger and put it on and it would fit would be very high. But for some reason, I was still so incredibly nervous walking in there. And I was shying away in the corner. One of my friends noticed. She's like, Kelly, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just really uncomfortable. I don't know if I can like do it. I'm scared, and like, give me the biggest size, you know, cause I didn't want to have that experience all over again. And gratefully I didn't, but yeah, there's so many instances where things like that kind of exist and we don't really recognize. And that does stuff when you're, you know, when you're overweight and when you can't, you know, it becomes part of you, unfortunately.
Well, just the same way like that the wins become a part of you though, right? Like just that like those things become like a piece, like a thing that whether you like it or not, whether you want it to or not, like they become something that defines you and that becomes a, like you start to like take those things on as a piece of your identity. And I think that's like why change can be so hard, because, you know, we might spend years or decades even taking on those things as a piece of our identity that don't make us feel good, that make us feel shameful or sad or hurt or whatever. And then someone like yourself like starts digging in and they're like, no, like I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change the narrative. And you start changing the narrative and picking up these positives that like do also become a piece of your identity. But what nobody ever talks about is that like that in itself is a challenge to integrate, right?
Yeah, like so I have like an example of that. So we talk about working out and all this kind of stuff and what this one does, that one does. And like, I do a whole bunch of different workouts, like when I can, right? And so like, I never once would consider myself like a runner, quote, like a runner. I'm not a marathon runner. I can run 5Ks, but like, you know, and eventually a goal of mine is to do like another one and then another one and then another one. But like, I never consider myself like a quote runner. But you know what? A runner is just someone who runs. And so like, yeah, now,
yes.
like now I can say, you know, yeah, I'm a runner. Why not? I'm not running and winning marathons, but why can't I call myself a runner if I run?
You know, those times that I'm feeling weird enough to actually force myself to go outside and run, I can define myself as a runner. Just kidding to like Alessi or Martin or whoever runs on our staff that might be listening to this.
Listen, I'm no professional, but
yeah. It's an interesting exercise in learning how to define yourself, because whenever you start to make some changes like that, you start to realize like that definition has been like the ability to define myself with whatever I want has been sitting in my hands this entire time. Mm-hmm. And I'm just now recognizing that it's there. So you are officially out of session right now, correct?
I am, yes.
So I want to hear from the both of you. I'll let you start first, Kelly. What were some of the things that went on in your mind whenever you were thinking about, like, I want to move off into the wild on my own? You talked about it a little bit, but I want to move off into the wild on my own. And were there things that, like, questions that you had for Jeb to get ready for that? And then, Jeb, I'd love to hear from you after, like, you know, if from your point of view, like, what was important to you to feel like Kelly was prepared? Like, she was ready to move off and handle this?
I guess probably for me, there was a point in there where I was like, I gotta lose 100. I'm so close. I have to do it. It's like the biggest thing. It's cool. I'm right there. Right. And then I kind of was, I guess what we call like diet fatigued, right? Like I was tired of sometimes always making the sacrifice when life was getting really kind of active. You know, summer started. I have a lot of things like on my social calendar, and it was a lot of being out of the house. It was a lot of being away from my normal grind that, like, I know what I needed to do to be on a cut, but we started practicing like maintenance for a while. And I wanted to be able to like navigate all of these things that were always getting, quote, in the way, even though they're not in the way, because this is life, right? So like I had to learn how to sort of do this. I love the accountability of a coach. I mean, I even texted Jeb this morning, like my weight, just to like, you know, we kind of like had a thing, don't fall off, text me your weight, like make sure it's all going good still. But for some reason, I just wanted to be in charge a little bit. I wanted to take a breather. I wanted to get into this like lifestyle mode that we talk about where, you know, I've learned so much about food and what I need to do in order to be in a cut. But I needed to learn how much food I can eat to kind of maintain myself. And so I don't know. I think I was just ready. And I'm kind of up for the challenge every week. There's something kind of new and I pull through each week. I'm like, okay, I made it through and I'm good and everything is still okay. And it's because I still know all of the things that I've learned throughout my cut, but just in a different sort of a manner, you know?
Right.
Boom, that just hits it right there.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to be in charge.
Right.
Yeah.
I want, like, it's the, you know, it's like, I want the ball when the buzzer is going to go. I want to take the final shot. Like that is that is the mindset of someone that's ready to do it.
So like I kind of almost in my head had this thought that I was like, all right, let me end in maintenance. Let me end here, right? With this kind of numbers-ish here. Let me get through all this stuff, right? And then I am going to prove when I come back, like in the fall for like another cut, that I did it. I didn't put the weight back on. I didn't do it. It's almost like a challenge for me, like to take this little interim time for myself to really, really prove once again to myself that I can do it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that if the people who are really successful in this, for me, especially the people who've seen huge weight loss, people like Kelly, you have one of two choices. You can view this as an opportunity. You can view this as a blessing, or you can view this as a burden. And if you view this as a burden, it's always going to feel like that, and it's never going to take hold. But if you view this as opportunity and the ability, it's just a different mindset. It's that growth mindset, and Kelly's got that. And like right there, she says, maintenance is a challenge for me. Instead of people are like, maintenance is so hard. What am I going to do? She's like, no, this gives me the opportunity to prove that I can not gain weight, not to prove that I can lose weight, but I can stay the same.
Yeah.
And
totally.
And that's such a different outlook. So many people get off the cut and they're like, it was easy to prove that I could do this, but now I don't have anything to prove because I'm just staying the same. It's like, no, you have so much to prove.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge thing right there.
Hey, listen, I've already cleared that closet 3 different times. I'm not doing it again.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not doing it again. And so I will not go backwards. Like I won't. And so it's not even an option. I have to learn now how to do it. I will always be with Stronger You. I'm never leaving, literally. But, life is life. And sometimes we'll be active on program and sometimes we won't. And we'll always have everybody to lean on and stuff. But like when you own this stuff, you have to really get to understand it. When I see a lot of times, like in the groups and things, like questions and a lot of stuff from new people and this and that. And I'm like, oh man, just wait. Oh man, just wait. Like, just wait until you really get it,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's awesome.
The other thing that I felt okay with her leaving is like Kelly knows. Like I was like, text me on your check-in day. Like it's kind of as difficult for me not having her check in as it probably is for her, because like Kelly, like she's a big source of inspiration for me. Right? Like I see this working. I mean, there was days like I haven't cried. I think I've cried one time since like 1978. Like the day I was born, I probably cried, and that was about it. I'm not an emotional person like that, but I swear for like 3 months, I'd like say to my wife, I'm like, oh my God, like this girl Kelly, her check-in, it's just so amazing, like this or the other. But she knows. I'm like, if she struggles, like I don't care if she's in session or not. We'll take care of it.
Whenever you're working with a coach, especially like if you've been hyper successful to the point that Kelly has been, when somebody moves along, it's like, this is not like goodbye forever. This is like, I'm still going to talk to you, but
please still be my friend.
Yeah, but it still feels like man, like this is a shot in the heart, because like you don't realize like the highlight that you have become to my day as a coach, or like the things that like I might come to understand more deeply because I've helped you understand them, or things like that. Like coaching truly is, I think, an exercise in like learning the same lessons over and over again. It's just now we're learning them through our clients, and they're like teaching us the gravity of those lessons.
Right. It's so funny because you'll hear a lot like, oh, once you have a long-term client, like the check-ins are just kind of quick, and you're just like, I'm like, I don't know who you guys are working with, because Kelly and my, like, he was getting like 10, 12 minute videos, like writing me, like
novels. Yeah.
But
I
it
go
was
like
great.
paragraph,
Yeah.
paragraph.
And thank God you understand to separate paragraphs, because if
I know. Like each topic is a different paragraph. That's what it is.
But that became such a part of my routine that it was like, okay, like there was never a chance that I was glossing over Kelly's check-in. And I think that also explains her success. And I tell my clients all the time, I say, guys, like the spreadsheet's cool. I can use the data and I can interpret it. If you're a robot, awesome. But I learned so much more from what's in that body of that email. I learned so much more when she talks to me about, wow, I like the story about going to try on the bridesmaids dresses, or, going with friends to Atlantic City, or, St. Patrick's Day in Rockaway, which anyone who doesn't know Rockaway, every Irish cop and person like moved down 50 years ago. So St. Patrick's Day is quite a thing. But like those are the things that I learn about the person. And that's also what kind of makes it harder when one is like, wow, like we shared our week. And she was sharing with me, but then I was sharing with her, because how do we relate? It's what I went through this week too.
Yep.
Right.
I can't even begin to tell you how many times like I've had somebody move along and almost like the next check-in rolls around and it's like there's a hole, and I'm like, wait a minute, like why is my day off? What's going on?
And it's Wednesdays, man. And my Wednesdays, I mean, on my Wednesday I had Kelly, I had Chris Sheldon, who's like 120 pounds down. I've got my client Sue, who she's also like 85 pounds down, and all the same people. They send me like great, big emails, and it was just this day. And like Kelly's my first, one that's moved on to that group, and they're all going too soon. It's all coming. Like, I'm like, but it is. It's. I think it's also this source of like pride, though, when I see that she's saying like, I've learned these things and I'm ready I want to try this on my own. I want to prove that I can do it. It's like, all right. So I think, maybe I have done my job. Maybe I've fulfilled my duty in that I've given her at least the tools to do this.
For sure. 100%.
First off, Kelly, please know that like while hearing your story has been super cool, the whole reason we actually recorded this is to keep Jeb from getting too bummed out on a Wednesday. So we wanted to like try and let him down as easily as we can. So I really appreciate you agreeing to like be the real MVP here. But I don't know how long you've been off on your own, but how's it going?
I mean, I think it's only been maybe 1 week, 2 weeks. Okay. So it's still really new. And, it doesn't really feel like, aside from the not sending an email, but I can't really speak to that because I texted Jeb this morning, so I don't know. We haven't really gone very long without communicating just yet. And I am still 100% tracking. I weigh, I measure, I track, and I plan. And so nothing really is very different aside from, well, not even, like, because I said, I texted Jeb this morning, my weight. So, I'm like still sailing. Everything's still okay. And so it feels a little different, I guess, like on my side, it feels a little different. But I'm still very honest with myself. I mean, Jeb ingrained in me. He was like, throughout all of these months, he, like, one of the biggest things, probably one of the biggest reasons why I've learned so much too with him is he is very, very big on, you have a blowout day, you track that puppy. Yeah. Like, see those numbers, see it. And so when you do that, and like he knows, I sent him all my blowouts. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, sometimes there was day after day with big blowouts. But, having that knowledge is more than like just putting it in your phone and kind of moving along. Like you get it, you understand it a little bit more because you're like, look at what this can do, you know, like just one day, look. And so there's no, I don't have a coach, I'm going to like cheat and do whatever I want now. Like there is none of that because like I've already seen what that can do. So no, it's planning, it's measuring, it's weighing, it's meal prepping. That's what it is, There's
real power that comes from not hiding from what you're doing. And then like in learning how to not hide, you start to realize like how strong you actually are. You're like, and then I think like you start to develop some detachment to those blowout days. Like whenever you learn to not hide from them, you start to be able to view them through an objective lens as like okay, this happened.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I see all the time, like in the group and stuff, like, oh my God, I blew it. I binged. I had 3 cookies. I'm like, girlfriend, if 3 cookies is what you think is trouble, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing. That is nothing. That's
you should have seen my last Friday.
Yeah. Like that's not what it was about. And even in the beginning, like the very, very beginning, I think it was like Mike, like when you're still in a cut and everything. I remember looking back and literally cutting like a grape in half just to make whatever it is, 100 grams, right? Because I thought that 103 grams was going to be something like insanely different. Right. And there I am obsessively cutting a grape. And then I look back at myself right now and I'm like, oh my God, like it's okay. Like you can go the 2 grams over. Like that's not real. Like it's okay. You know?
Right.
So like there's so much to learn with like these numbers and the 000s and the this and the that. And with time, I think it comes, but you're right. Not hiding from it shows you too. And it on the flip side too, it shows you like kind of like the flexibility. Hey, listen, you know what? If you accidentally underguessed by 10, your world is not going to change.
No.
You know? So it's nice.
Yeah, there's just a lot that comes from like showing up every day, right? Even if your day is less than stellar, or even if it's like a magnificent failure, there's still something to be said for showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you put enough days behind you where you're showing up, then ultimately, whether you like it or not, you'll get to a point like where you're at now, where like the option to like go back to who you were doesn't even actually really exist. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like,
it doesn't.
It's like this thing, it's a motivator, and it should stay as a motivator. Like none of us are ever going to tell you like, stop thinking about that or anything like that. Right. But like you start to come to the realization that like, I can't go back there because I'm not that person.
You can't unlearn anything.
No.
You know? That's the thing too. Like I could never make the choices that I was making previously now, because now I know, you know, and I can't, maybe if I wanted to unlearn it, I couldn't, even if I tried. And so making those choices, it's not even possible anymore.
Right.
You know, forget about the mental stuff, but like physically, I probably couldn't eat any of that kinds of stuff now. Sometimes even now when I go out to like dinner, if I, you know, do everything right and I know I'm going to have this or that, you know, my stomach's unhappy with me.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I'm like,
funny how that works, right?
Like knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's an incredible journey in that way.
Yeah.
It is that whole matrix situation. Like once you open that can of worms, you can't put it back. Like it's done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like the term red pill has been co-opted by some crazy.
Yeah, that's why I don't
but it's totally true. It's like once you take like the stronger you red pill of like, I'm going to track everything, you know, I'm going to behave in the way that like the person who I want to be would behave. Some really incredible things start to happen, and before you recognize it, you're just along for the ride. It's like you don't have a choice in the matter. You're there, you know.
I mean, it happens to me every day. Every day, someone will be like, "Oh, you want some of this?" I'm like, "Oh no, thanks," because I'm going to have that.
Yeah,
and that's what I would say to her. I was like, you know, and everyone, I say, just track those days when you blow out. It's not for me. It was never for me.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it is, my job is to hold a mirror up to your true self and to try to force you to be honest with yourself.
That's all coaching is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And once we can be true to ourselves, you don't need accountability.
You don't.
Now it's great. Like trust me, I have a coach. I know everything I do, and I have a coach every day. And 90% of the time, all we do is make sure I don't gain or lose weight. I'm just maintaining. But for me, it helps me to make sure that I don't slide that mirror under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's why people journal. It's why people do anything that they do. It's like the way I describe MyFitnessPal or anything like that to people is that like, I don't actually care if you go out to eat and what you've logged is entirely accurate. Like I care that you log it because we want to have a backlog of your behavior.
Right.
And, so for no other reason than like, you can't run away from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in the beginning, there's that initial desire to like, no, I do want to run away from it because I feel guilty for what I've done and I feel bad for it. And then you hit a point where you turn the corner and you're like, I'm not running away from anything. I'm looking at what I did, and this is how it went down. And what the hell ever? Like, it doesn't change the fact that I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
And then it goes away from food and it starts going into other stuff. That's why I say one of my favorite things that Kelly ever told me is I remember one day she's like, I want to work out. It was like she wanted to work out at lunch or something. She's like, so I'm going to go ask my boss to change my schedule. I know he's probably going to say no, but I'm going to go in and ask anyways. And I was like,
yeah, that's what it was. I wanted to work out at lunch, and so I had to like move my shift. And he was gonna say no. He said no, so I ended up.
She's like, but I don't care. I'm going in and asking, and I'm like, who is this person?
Yes,
and that to me, that was so much bigger than saying I didn't eat cake or I didn't eat. It was something that had nothing to do with food at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's incredible.
No, the biggest wins always do come whenever it's like, holy hell, the new me wouldn't. Like, I could have never imagined doing that. And now I am. Guys, you've both been truly incredible. This has been absolutely awesome. So, Kelly, what I want to say to you is best of luck out in the wild on your own. Not because I think that you need it at all. I think anyone that listens to this right now is going to come away from it with a clear understanding that, like, you're going to own this shit. So enjoy it. Enjoy being off in the wild.
I mean, I'm not going anywhere too far. I'm still like creeping all over Facebook and Instagram, and I'll still like, every once in a while drop my bombs of posts here and there.
Good.
And I mean, I'm not going anywhere, but
good.
Technically, I love the wild though. I think it's hysterical out in the wild. It is wild out there though. That's the thing.
It's a wild world. It's a wild world out there.
It really is though. I'm telling you, it's crazy. All everybody ever wants to do is eat.
It's true.
and drink. It's true. It's tough, man. But that's all it is.
Thank you for being on. Jeb, you got any parting words you want to share for Kelly to send her out into the wild on her own? Maybe like I'm
not giving you any parting words because I expect to at least every couple weeks talk to her. So no real parting word. She's going to be.
You will.
Don't you worry. My parting words for Kelly: you've earned all this. You've learned all this. Now share it. You're in the position that you can help other people, and especially within the group and outside, and just let them know that this is possible and that we can change these things, a person at a time.
Absolutely.
That's it. Well, listen, to the both of you, thank you so much. This was great. I can't wait for people to hear it, and I can't wait to hear the response that we get. I think it's going to be awesome. I really do. I think there's going to be a lot of people who come away from this with like just a deeper understanding of like what goes on in the midst of a major change.
Yeah, I mean, like we didn't even talk about food, at all.
Well, to be totally, I think Jeb feels me on this. Like that's kind of my favorite way to go about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Tanner and I have pretty similar taste in all of this stuff. So
yeah. If we can spend a whole hour not talking about food, but instead talking about like deep stuff, I'm in.
All right.
But listen, thank you both. To everybody listening at home, on the road, in your walk to work, or wherever you are, thank you so much. Keep your eyes peeled and your ears tuned. We'll have another episode dropping next week. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tanner.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys.
Stronger You Radio is a broadcast wellness production powered by StrongerYouFit.com. Content copyright Stronger You. Executive producer Frank Sardella. Thanks for listening to Stronger You Radio. For more information on the podcast, visit StrongerYouPodcast.com.